It's back. Bigger. Better. And better. It's Black History Month, the sequel, a 28-day celebration of black exploitation films. The end of Blaxploitation left a big void as far as black cinema is concerned, and with the birth of the summer blockbuster and Hollywood recovering from the dark ages, no pun intended, studios were in no hurry to cater to an audience they felt was no longer profitable. In steps Carl Weathers, himself no stranger to black exploitation, as he had starred in both Friday Foster and Bucktown. Coming off the success of the Rocky franchise and Predator, Carl Weathers approached producer Joel Silver about the possibility of making an updated blaxploitation film with a new hero named Action Jackson, who Carl Weathers would play himself. Now of course by this point, since it's 1988, you couldn't actually do most of what people would consider a blaxploitation film, since most of those themes were now played out. And therein lies the problem with the movie Action Jackson, because despite Joel Silver being the producer responsible for classic action films like Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, I don't think anybody could quite figure out what to do with Action Jackson. Action Jackson follows the exploits of Sergeant Jericho Jackson, who was downgraded from lieutenant after his involvement in a case that had to do with the son of a big-time businessman named Peter Delaplane, played by Craig T. Nelson. He has a hell of a reputation within the department, but the movie takes its time getting to it. You have to sit through a lot of introductions and mystery to get to the actual action in Action Jackson, and none of it is particularly interesting. I dare say a lot of it is downright confusing and way too convoluted for a simple action film. Having to do with unions and politics and stuff, this is supposed to be Detroit. I know there's a lot more going on than this. My biggest gripe with it is that for it to be inspired by blaxploitation, Weathers, as Jericho Jackson, exhibits none of the characteristics of the so-called super negro. The bad guys get the jump on him way too much. Furthermore, he's too much of a good guy. I feel like this time around, people felt like the image of the black hero needed to be rehabilitated. So Action Jackson is not only a decorated officer, but also a former football star, and also a law school graduate, and also just an all-around stand-up guy, which is no more evident than once he meets the mistress of the villain, Sydney, played by the late Vanity, and she tries her hardest to get some of his action.
Wait until we're married or something?
Some folks used to call me Action.
Action? Shit, I ain't seen none of that tonight. Sure was no woman that gave you that name.
Man, Fred Williamson would have been on at least round 3 by now. A few positive things though is that it features a who's who of 80s action stars, many of them playing against type, since they were usually villains in other movies around this time. And on top of that, it's got a decent black cast, including Bill Duke as the chief and a small cameo from Miguel A. Nunez. It even has Sharon Stone, so as you can see, a lot of effort was put into making it successful on the cast front. But perhaps the biggest thing that kept Action Jackson from being a classic was the hero himself. It's not Carl Weathers' fault. I think his career speaks for itself, but it's whoever wrote the script and the ridiculous dialogue he had to work with. Whenever he finally does get to the action, somebody thought it was a good idea to have him constantly crack jokes through the entire time.
Maybe this wasn't such a damn good idea after all.
It's just hard to take him seriously. Like, make up your mind. Did you want to make an action film or a comedy? Because it's nearly impossible to pull off both. I gotta give Carl Weathers props for even having the idea to resurrect the Blaxploitation Action Hero. Sadly, he was let down by a weak script and the misfortune of being a derivative action film during the same time that other classics were being made. It's a shame, because it further put a nail in the coffin of black action cinema.